Hey, Joe here from Home Studio Corner talking about the Presonus StudioLive 24. One of the first videos I did for the 24, I mentioned how one of the benefits of using a mixer, just any mixer, as your kind of heart and brain of your studio is that you don't have to deal with latency. And a lot of people fight back saying, well, modern interfaces don't really have much latency either. There are workarounds. And I will admit it's not 2006 anymore where latency is unbearable and you need audio interfaces that allow you to monitor directly off the box to even hear what you're recording without something like a Pro Tools HD system. But there are a couple ways to handle that on the StudioLive. One of them is my favorite, but let me talk about the other way first. Then I'll show you my favorite way to do it. It's super simple and you never have to futz with settings ever again. Let's look into Studio One. So here, if you've never used Studio One before, or you've got your first session set up, you create a track and you set the input to input 3. That's where my mic is right now. And we go to hit record. And here's what it sounds like. We hit record and we're hearing ourselves with a delay. That delay is called latency. That's the problem. We're monitoring through the software and it just takes that long for the signal to go into the software and to come back out. Now, historically, the way you fix that was you come over here to your audio settings under audio setup and you adjust the device block size, or sometimes it's called the buffer settings, and you just go down to something lower like 32 samples. We do that and we hit the button and now it's better, but there's still a little bit of latency there. And sometimes a lot of people just deal with it. They don't realize there are other solutions. With Studio One specifically, you may have noticed on the main output, there's this little Z. I don't know why it's a Z, but it stands for Enable Low Latency Mode. Listen to what happens. I'm going to engage the track again. If I just click that Z, boom. Now it's almost instantaneous. You're hearing my voice off the console and you're hearing just the slightest bit of delay coming from the track itself. And what it's doing is it's shortening the buffer size, but it's also disabling any plugins that might be causing latency, which is one of the problems people run into. They don't realize where the latency is coming from, and that's usually it. And it's certain buffer settings, if you set this buffer up to something high like 2,448 samples, and you switch over to processing, you'll see low latency is not available here. And you'll notice that button disappears. So if you don't see that button and you're wondering where it went, come over to audio device, go down to something slightly smaller, like 128 is a good spot. Enable that, and then if you come over to the right, you'll see, okay, I can now do low latency mode. The reason you even do that is the lower the device block size, the faster your computer has to work to get it back out. And sometimes you can have some dropouts and weirdness happening when you're trying to make your computer run super fast. But you can go down to 16 samples. As long as there's no dropout in audio, you're good to go. So that's one way to do low latency monitoring. You can do that with any audio interface. You don't have to have a StudioLive. Any interface, specifically Presonus stuff, but I assume it works with others, has that mode where you just click the little Z and it sets things up to where you're hearing as low latency as you can, and then you can come in and adjust the device block size to make it even faster if you need that. What's great about the StudioLive is I can monitor directly off the board with zero latency. I don't have to even send it into the software to hear what I'm recording. Let me show you. You'll notice when I press the record button here that this monitor button also comes on. So when I hit that, here comes the latency. If I just turn off this, now I'm recording. You're hearing my voice with zero latency on the board itself, and we're not actually listening back to what's going into the software. That means I can have 24 tracks of drums, bass, guitars, vocals, all this stuff happening. We can all hear ourselves instantly without having to do anything in the software, and it all gets recorded, and we can play it back and hear everything just fine. Now, it's annoying that is defaulted to on. So there's actually a setting here under this wrench down at the bottom. You can deselect this checkbox that says monitoring follows record. If you're always using a StudioLive as your interface, now when I turn the recording on and off, that monitor button stays disabled, which is helpful. And now I don't have to do any settings to record. I can open a session. I can even do, if you're thinking about you want to just give yourself plenty of room, normally my session is set to like 2,048 samples. Because it doesn't matter because I'm never monitoring the input. So I can click on that. I can record something, and I can come back and look at it, and it plays back, recording something, and I can go do the next thing. And there's zero latency. I never have to click a button, do a setting, do anything, because I'm listening directly off the board, and the board is designed for studio and live use, which means there can't be any latency there. And that's one of the reasons I love this sucker. So there you go, 2 ways to get low latency using either the StudioLive or Studio One. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.